Hello and welcome to the United States Air Force F-35A Lightning II virtual demonstration today. We're here at beautiful northern Utah at Hill Air Force Base to bring you a one-of-a-kind show for the United States Air Force's premier fifth-generation fighter. I am your host for today, Captain Kip Sumner, F-35 Public Affairs Advisor. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully you're tuning in from somewhere around the world on Facebook and YouTube. I can tell you right now, we're here at an active flight line for the 388th Fighter Wing in Hill Air Force Base. We're going to have a great show. We've got a fantastic team here of maintenance professionals, pilots, safety observers, and public affairs wingmen that are kind of going to give you that inside look as to what it means to be on the F-35 demo and to kind of fly that show. Speaking of which, today we're going to have some pre-guest interviews, we're going to have multiple camera setups, and all sorts of other things to kind of give you things that you may not even see at a regular show center. That being said, we've got a fantastic team that's kind of going to help us see what it's like to launch the jet from a maintenance perspective, as well as what it's like to fly the jet from a combat perspective and from a safety observer perspective. We'll get a little bit more into that later. Want to say hello and thanks again to Captain Williams, Tech Sergeant Erickson, and Staff Sergeant Anastasia Tompkins for joining us here today. These are going to be the kind of people who are going to help walk us through what it means to be part of the F-35 demo virtual performance today. So thanks for joining us today, gentlemen. And for those of you who don't already know, our host, our pilot and performer for today is going to be Captain Kristen Bayo-Wolf. She is a combat F-35 pilot, and most interestingly enough, a former F-22 pilot, graduating from entering the Air Force in 2011, receiving her commission from ROTC. She has flown both of the Air Force's premier fifth-generation fighters. Definitely a unique experience that a lot of people do, with over 800 flying hours in both the F-22 and the F-35A Raptor. Once again, as we get ready to start, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to give a big shout-out and thanks to the 2nd Audiovisual Squadron, a visual production unit for the Air Force. Little do many people know, the Air Force actually has a premier Hollywood-style video production crew that's able to help us put on the show today, which is a fantastic thing that we're able to use to bring you. So again, thanks to the 2 ABS for helping us with that. Speaking of which, though, I'm going to kind of open the floor to my teammates here, Sergeant Erickson and Sergeant Shady, or Captain Shady. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great. It's good to be here. Pretty neat opportunity to be able to do this on a virtual side and show the world who are at home what we kind of do here, which is awesome.
Yeah. How you feeling out there on the flight line, Sergeant Erickson?
Feeling great out here. Warmer than expected today, but it should be a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, definitely. Summer has arrived at Utah. It is a toasty 95 to 97 degrees. We're out here in our black show uniforms, kind of keeping that professionalism strong. As you can see, the maintainers are kind of getting ready to prep the jet right now. So in a second, we're going to throw it over so you guys can actually hear the planeside brief that's happening between our key leadership members. But Sergeant Erickson, can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to see from the maintainers today?
Yeah, absolutely. So today you're going to be able to see a ground demonstration that we've been working on during the whole entire off-season from the months of November all the way to March. So what that's going to do is it's going to encompass a 2-person launch crew. You're going to have both an A-man and a B-man. Your A-man is going to be the person who's in charge and actually marshaling out the jet, and then you'll have the B-man who does the walk-around visual inspection, removes the chocks, and then eventually meet up with the A-man and send Bayo off on her way.
Very nice. Looks like we should get some awesome vapes today, hopefully, too. You thinking we may see some of that vapor coming off the aircraft today, Shady?
Oh, absolutely. I was out flying yesterday in a very similar weather environment, and we were vaping hardcore, so this is you'll definitely see some of those today.
Very nice. We've got a lot of great comments coming in from social media, so once again I want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in. And for those of you who don't know, vapes are actually kind of water pressure or air vapor that's being boiled off of the aircraft. Shady, can you tell me a little bit kind of what vapes mean outside of what everybody normally thinks?
Yeah, so whenever we see that from a pilot's perspective, it really kind of just shows how much energy is on, or lack thereof, on the jet. We really use it more in a dogfight scenario when we're fighting each other. I can look across a circle or backwards or forwards, for that matter, and see whether or not that person is vaping around their aircraft, and I can tell their energy state on the aircraft. Mainly, it's during high alpha AOA, angle of attack, that the pilot is putting on the aircraft. and we will, in fact, a lot of the F-35 demonstration show is based on high alpha maneuvers. So we're very fortunate that you'll definitely see some of that today.
Yeah, well, hopefully it will be an awesome show. The demonstration is meant to push the jet to its limits and kind of showcase that combat maneuverability. So hopefully Bayo's ready to full send it today and kind of put that together for us. I think that'll be a great show.
Absolutely.
Once again, for those of you who are just now joining us, you are here for the F-35 live virtual demonstration. We're going to hand it over to the stateside reporters so you can hear kind of what that plane side interview sounds like. We're going to hand that over to them now.
Try to keep it off the from the down. I'm going to be about this far away from her.
Sounds like we're standing by really quick. So we're just going to go ahead and say hey, and thanks to everybody for joining us. Looks like we got some international fans out there. Thanks for joining us, Steph Strickland. I see you in the chat out there. We are definitely going to kick the tires and light the fires out here. This is a combat-ready F-35 from what I understand too, right, Shady? What's the difference between this jet that they're flying and one of the ones normally here at the fighter wing?
Honestly, really no difference, to be completely honest. This jet, I don't know specifically. That's the maintainers really do a fantastic job of shuffling the jets around between us flying on a daily basis. So this jet that you're seeing on the screen right now could have, potentially flown yesterday in one of our in the fighter squadron's normal sorties locally here. So there is no difference between a combat-rated F-35 that we in the fighter squadrons fly versus the F-35 demonstration team. There's no difference whatsoever.
Fantastic. And it kind of looks like they're walking around the jet right now. We got a whole team out there. Sergeant Erickson, when the maintainers kind of walk around the jet, what are they looking at prior to the launch?
Yeah, so prior to the launch, they're going to do your last visual inspection. You're going to check the tires, make sure they're good to go, checking any fluid leaks, checking the brakes, making sure that they are good to go, and making sure the jet is clean and ready for flight.
And all of this is really like a preliminary inspection, right? You guys do a lot of pre-flight maintenance, too, to make sure these jets are ready for the performance, huh?
Absolutely. So before and after every flight, we do scheduled inspections. So what that all entails is the visual walk-around, and then we actually do what's called a inlet and exhaust inspection. So we'll actually have one of our qualified maintainers jump into the inlet and do a visual of the fan blades, the nose cone, and making sure everything else is good to go in there before flight, and then after as well to make sure that it didn't ingest anything. So we're checking before flight for what we call FOD, foreign object debris, and then post-flight for foreign object damage.
All right, that sounds awesome. We'll get back to that in just a sec. We're actually going to throw it over to the plane side interview so you guys can hear what Bayo is going to be briefing her leadership team on now. So we're going to throw that over to them.
Like some build-up potentially on the south end, so we'll keep that in mind. I'll do a weather check on the high speed. No applicable NOTAMs for us today. My ORM is low, and then you can plan for the slow speed will be a left to right all day for the winds. And then for the winds check at 5,000 Rocky, just give me a quartering on from the north or south, and then I'll make pedal and square lip corrections in relation to the winds for the show lines. No FCFs or FCIs to speak of. Birds are low. For the sun angle, pretty high in the sky, so I'll have the VHUD up to cross-check that if it, for the repositions straight up to the south end. And then, but it should be hidden by the clouds if they do stick around. Personal limits will be 7.5 Gs max today, and then for the crowd lines, it'll be hill standard. So for the 500-foot line, it'll be bisecting taxiway alpha and the inside edge of the runway. And then for the 1,200 line, it'll be just outside of the east edge of the runway there. For execution today, so I'll hop in the jet on the hour, and then I get engine start. I'll taxi out to 14 EOR, and then from there, Rocky will own the show as far as we'll do a radio check, and then you can expect at 24 after, I'll ask you if you're ready for verify checks, and then at 25 exactly that we'll do the verify checks. Verify will be in accordance with the front of the card. What you can expect is the high show south flow. I'll give you the local altimeter, what I have set, and then just cross-check, make sure all my altitude settings are correct. Tapes are on, recording, and then I'll give you a final winds check in EOR if you can just give me what you're seeing on the windsock here at midfield. All right, for the show execution and the parameter review, I'll take off left to right, immediately go into the half Cuban 8, do a right pitch out at show center, and then it'll be a roll right to go left out for weapon bay doors. Weapon bay doors will be coming in from the left out to the right. Out for high speed will be right to left, and then it'll be into the quick climb. I'll reposition in relation to the clouds, all else being equal, going up to 17.5 MSL. We'll get next maneuver will be a min radius. I'll give you a winds check at 6,000 feet, and then you can process that. I'll process the magnitude of the winds if you can just give me the angle off quartering on off from the north or south, as we just discussed. All right, from there, for the min radius left to right, we'll pitch out at show center, come in, snap out of that immediately into the lightning loop, and then recovery from the lightning loop will be right pitch out behind the crowd. I'll give you a out for dedication, and I'll give you a fuel check. Expect me to be in the low to mid 7,000 pounds there for the fuel check. Out for dedication, default will be a full reposition for the dedication to be a left to right from behind the tower. And then on the reposition from dedication, it'll be right to left for the eye-to-eye pass, and then pitch out for pedal turn. Default again today, as long as the clouds are above 6,000 feet, we're going to do a full 360-degree pedal. So that'll be from the left, 360 degrees, finishing to the south, and then pitching out for a square loop from the right, recovering to the north. From there, we'll go out for the slow speed. I'll line up as best I can on the 500-foot line, and then Rocky from there, once I get settled and start coming down from 1,000 feet, 5 or 10 left or right for you for show line corrections to stay on the 500-foot line. From there, good line, and then corrections all the way out to the show center call. At that point, I'll select max AB, climb up for the split S, straight into opposing rolls right to left, and then I'll say last maneuver will be tack pitch, and then tack pitch will be from the left, pitching out at show center, and then the recovery from that will be a left roll, and then a left 270 roll for a left base gear stop to 1.4 for the landing. All right, for any abnormals today, for any engine abnormals, we should have low and high key available today for PFO or for an SFO or PFO. I'll prioritize 1.4 for the cable configuration, and then from there, back me up on the cable call with tower. And then for any flight control issues, I'll go ahead and select max AB, roll in this nearest horizon, push or pull as required to recover the jet, and then I'll work with you, Rocky, in the checklist to work that emergency. If I do get fuel tank press today, then I will just call out on the radio. That means no max AB maneuvers, and then I'll let you know if I'm going to do a flat pass to reposition for the slow speed later on in the show. For any controlled bailout today, I'm going to point towards the mountains, unpopulated areas, get out for a stall or sink rate, and then if anything feels weird, dumb, dangerous, or different, I'll hold the hammer on call and lightning knock it off. And then if you see any maneuvers not met in accordance with the front side of the car, then you can go ahead and call board-to-board altitude, board-to-board airspeed, and then I'll recover the jet, and we'll go ahead and talk about it from there. Mid-air collision avoidance for today, we should have the airspace for the entirety of the show, but for you guys clearing out behind the airfield for me for any traffic there as I'm repositioning for the dedication. All right, for our timeline today, what you can expect, I told you verify at 25. Narration start for you, Murph, will be 27:30. I'll give you a ready for narration once I'm lined up and wait on the runway, and then expecting that to happen for the 2.5 narration for on time 14:30 on the hour, or sorry, 14:30:00 takeoff from there. Rocky, anything I missed or any questions? No. Murph, questions for you?
Good to go.
Sweet. We walk out at 58, and we have the ladder on the hour.
Nice.
All right, so we just heard a lot of different things just now that maybe people wouldn't see if they were at the show center. Shady, can you tell me just a little bit, what was Bayo exactly talking about to her team there?
Yeah, you betcha. So we do a kind of a crew coordination, even though we're single-seat fighter pilots. We coordinate with the guys on the ground, as well as the person who is going to be your safety observer for that day. Really just, if you guys are seeing here, we kind of reference a standard lineup card that we have here, and this essentially just has all the maneuvers on it. Mainly, we just go over the show, a single time, real time speed, kind of just letting everyone know that we're gonna do either a high show or a low show based off the weather that we're seeing for the day, and based off that, just so everyone's on the same page more or less, so we can know what to expect. There's also a couple, for example, reasons why we brief is if there was a cloud deck for whatever reason. There are multiple opportunities to transition to a low show versus a high show if the weather does in fact become a factor. So that way, if that were to happen, all of us on the ground are on the same page, same sheet of music, so that we can proceed with the rest of the show there. And it'll be transparent to those on the ground watching it from a viewer's perspective.
Man, that's definitely a lot of information to try and pack into one short brief. Something that we understand too is you're a combat F-35 pilot yourself, correct?
Correct, yes.
About how many hours would you say you have in one of these jets?
I have about 620 hours in the F-35, half of those being combat hours over in the Middle East.
Oh, wow. So we're talking to an actual combat pilot here from Utah, folks. You're playing the role helping me explain what a safety observer does today. We have Major Burgess out there who's kind of going to be doing the actual show routine, but can you tell me what exactly is a safety observer and what does that mean for the team?
So the safety observer really is to work on the radio, similar to one that we have on the table here, which will listen to her calls. You have a direct channel. We call it an auxiliary frequency that we use to chat between myself or someone like Rocky out there on the flight line and Bayo, who is flying the jet. Essentially what we're doing with that is we back her up, letting her know that if there's any weather changes, what we're seeing on the ground as far as wind, midfield, because that could kind of push her when she's doing slow speed maneuvers on crowd, vice off crowd.
Gotcha.
As well as also, anytime she goes in the vertical over the top, there's certain numbers, airspeed wise, as well as altitude numbers that she must hit in order to continue the maneuver. If she doesn't hit that, whether that be she's too low or too slow, then we will give her an abort either with an altitude or airspeed, and she'll just knock off that maneuver. Hopefully it would be transparent to the people on the ground viewing. However, that's just to keep her safe. Reasons for that is if she loses a generator, for example, and she goes to half flight control performance based off of the electrics. As long as she hits her min altitude and airspeed, she will be able to safely recover that airspeed or the jet in a nose low environment.
Gotcha. So basically, even though it's a single ship demonstration, you're basically acting as her wingman on the ground, kind of making sure that everything goes smoothly for the show itself.
That's a great way to look at it. Absolutely.
Fantastic. That's a true embodiment of the wingman concept, folks. And real quick, just want to say, a Matthew Keene says, "What's going on, Shady?" So just a shout out from the crowd there for someone you probably know.
That is my brother-in-law.
Well, glad you're able to join us out there, Matt. And real quick, too, I want to go over Sergeant Erickson. Obviously, you guys maintain these combat-ready jets. You came from a combat environment to the demo team. What do you guys do with the jet? Is it any different than what we do with a combat jet, maintenance-wise?
Absolutely not. We take care of the jet the same manner we would any of the other aircraft that are here stationed at Hill Air Force Base. We do our thorough inspections. We make sure the jet's good to go for the pilots and fully mission capable every time.
Fantastic. So these jets, we're really pulling from the 388th Fighter Wing, correct? This is a combat jet from one of the fighter squadrons.
Absolutely. So right now we're taking our aircraft out of the 4th Aircraft Maintenance Unit. They're giving us 2 jets on a weekly basis, and we just pick and choose from those 2, and then Bayo does her performance.
Fantastic. Speaking of performances, we actually have a question from the audience that I think you might be able to help us touch on. Is how did you guys develop the narration for this maneuver? What the crowd's going to hear later today?
So our job on the ground for the demonstration is to provide narration for the audience there at Show Center. So that being said, what we do is we actually describe the maneuver real time in a manner that the audience will see it right then and there, and it won't be too soon or too late.
Fantastic. So you guys are pretty much timing it down to the second for this maneuver, right?
Absolutely. Both the narration and the music that correspond with it.
Correct. Awesome. So, about what time would you say, you've been on the team from the very start, what was it like standing this team up from a maintenance perspective?
It was actually an extreme honor to get selected for this position. Both myself and Master Sergeant Murphy, we actually interviewed all applicants for the demo team, and we hand-selected the expert maintenance team based off of their qualifications and their skill level.
Fantastic. It looks like we have 2 maintainers out at the jet with Bayo right now. Can you tell me, people think maintenance and they think of just general maintenance, but about how many? We have about 4 different career fields for maintenance on this team, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Our team is comprised of 4 different career fields. We have crew chiefs, avionics specialists, we have a weapons technician, and we have aircrew flight equipment specialist as well.
Fantastic. Which one would you say that you fall under? I know you're the team chief, but what AFSC would you say that you are, Air Force Specialty Code?
Yeah, so I'm a crew chief by nature. So
gotcha. Something that I wanted to touch on earlier that we saw somebody ask about too is you mentioned jumping the intakes. This jet, it looks pretty small from a distance. You're telling me that someone can actually get inside the jet, not in the cockpit?
Yeah, so with that being said, we actually have a ladder to provide us to get inside the intake, because the intake sits about 4 to 5 feet above ground. So we put on a special protective suit to prevent us scratching any of the low observable material and paint inside the intake, and then we actually go and then perform our visual inspection from there.
Man, that is crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, these are like pretty much car mechanics, but 100,000 times cooler, in my opinion. But real quick, I just want to ask you, we see Bayo right now. It looks like she's gearing up for the demonstration, and she's putting on some, that I've seen described maybe as like cowboy chaps, but obviously it's a little more complicated than that. Can you tell me what kind of gear she's putting on right now?
Yeah, you could call them speed jeans as well if you actually want to.
I love that too.
Yeah, it's So that is a G suit that she is putting on, and it's tough to tell in here whether or not she's doing we have a mixed G suit, a skeletal as well as a full coverage G suit. The one that you see her putting on right now is a full coverage G suit. Essentially, what that is any time in a fighter jet we go to pull Gs, that G suit that she's putting around her legs and waist, abdomen, is going to inflate with air, and that is essentially just to keep the blood up in her torso, definitely her head if she can, but definitely the upper portion of her body, and it will assist her. She'll also have to G-strain herself, but it'll assist her essentially not to black out. Worst case scenario,
of course,
because light loss when we were pulling a high G maneuver, I'm not going to say it's not unlikely, but it's definitely very likely, and a lot of guys get light loss when they pull heavy Gs like that. So it's just a bunch of tools that we use to assist our bodies in high G maneuvers.
So basically, high G maneuvers, that's forces of gravity, correct? How many Gs is she going to be pulling today during the demo?
So she will pull, I believe, 7 Gs is where she, like the jet is rated up to 9 Gs, but for safety concerns and really when you're pulling Gs low altitude like that, you're thinking about the pilot in that case. So if you lose any light loss or like consciousness at that point, the worst thing that you could do is go down into the ground from there. So I think we'd try to dial it back and keep it around 7 Gs max for her maneuvers that she's pulling down their low altitude.
Fantastic. So you're talking about, we've got those speed jeans, which I love that term, by the way, down there. And it looks like she's putting some stuff up on top. Obviously, she's got kind of like her oxygen mask. Can you tell me a little bit more about, like, what is that kind of pillow-looking thing around her neck? What has she got up there?
Yeah, so that's a nape strap. Those are interchangeable with an LPU, a life preservable unit. Just think just like a life jacket. That we really use those anytime we're flying over water. A lot of guys use them in the wintertime here, flying over the Great Salt Lake in a cold environment. Heaven forbid, knock on wood, you had to actually eject. But the nape strap really is just to help out with her neck, really, and it'll provide a little bit of support, if you will, with the helmet behind her. Additionally, the jacket that you saw her zip up, it has a bunch of things on it. It has multiple radios, search and rescue equipment that she can use. Again, heaven forbid if she were to go down in that case. It's just a lot of tools that we can use, as well as under her arm, kind of about halfway up the arm, there's those lanyards. She will buckle those in as well. In the event of ejection, those would kind of recoil around the quick release section that sits in the jet, and bring her arms down tight, so that way if we were to eject at a high speed, her arms would flail and heaven forbid break a limb or anything.
Of course. So we've got obviously one of the world's most advanced fighter jets out here, and it sounds like some pretty advanced safety equipment to keep them safe in the cockpit. And it looks like they're starting the launch now. Something that I see that maybe is a little different from most standard launches is I don't see any sort of communications equipment going between the maintainer and the pilot. Sergeant Harrison, can you tell me a little bit, how does the pilot know what the maintainers are doing and vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. So during our off-season months from November to March, we actually developed a launch that involves no communications, no ComCord communication with the pilot. So with that being said, we do visual cues back and forth from the A-man to Bayo in the seat. A simple lift of the right toe will indicate to go from either parade rest back to attention. And those certain cues indicate what the pilot should be doing. So whenever she's at attention, Bayo is hands off of everything, making sure it's safe for the B-man to walk around. And it's just a representation of what we came up with for the ground routine.
And so I'm not trying to toot our team's horn here, obviously, but it sounds like they're perfectly in sync with the pilot just via those hand signals, just getting ready to walk that jet. Obviously, we have Sergeant Glasgow, one of our avionics technicians, out in front of the jet getting ready to launch Bay out. And looks like Senior Airman Malik McKenzie, one of our crew chiefs, on the side. Can you tell me, what is McKenzie doing when he's walking around the jet like that?
Yeah, so he's the B-man for this launch. So what he'll do is he'll do a tire inspection. He'll walk through the left and right-hand weapons bay, making sure he's checking for any leaks, as well as the side inspection of the fuselage as well.
Fantastic. And obviously we don't have any weapons in the weapons bay, but it's important that they walk through underneath that. And then something we kind of saw, if we haven't already, is that he's walking directly behind the engine. What exactly is he? Is that engine? That's engine's producing thrust right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So it's actually, whenever he walks past the engine, he's actually going to duck and avoid the exhaust blast. So with that engine on, it's still producing thrust, and it's kicking out a massive amount of heat. So in order for us to maintain a safety zone, we duck, that way we do not run through that exhaust blast.
So we're talking a jet producing that can produce 43,000 pounds of thrust, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, most powerful fighter engine ever built. And he is walking underneath that exhaust blast. You're a crew chief yourself, Sergeant Erickson. I'm guessing you probably walked under your fair share of jet engines too, huh?
Absolutely, yes I have.
So what would happen if you were to slip up and kind of stand up behind that exhaust blast?
So in the unlikely event that would happen, it would produce enough thrust to blow the EPs off of your head. When I say EPs, your ear protection, potentially causing hearing loss. So it's vital for us to maintain a safe distance away from that exhaust blast. So that's why we actually duck underneath it every time.
So this is a job we're talking about in the Air Force, where these people maintain these multi-million-dollar fighter jets. He gets to walk around these engines, and you can just see how cool and collected Senior Airman McKenzie is right now, just right next to this expensive piece of machinery getting ready to launch out. In just a second, we're going to launch this jet out and kind of get ready for the demonstration. And we just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us now, this is the F-35A Lightning II virtual demonstration. We're out of Hill Air Force Base and the 388 Fighter Wing. And I think that's something worth mentioning too, Shady. You mentioned you were a combat pilot. What is the 388 Fighter Wing? Is it just a combat wing, a fighter wing? We fly F-35s, correct? But
correct. It's a whole fighter wing. We're made up of 3 fighter squadrons. We have the 4th, the 34th, and the 421. And then recently, as many F-35 demonstration team followers know, the team was originally out of Luke Air Force Base with Dojo. And so fortunately we were able to bring that up to Hill Air Force Base. And so now the F-35 demo team's operating out of Hill underneath the 388 Fighter Wing, which is awesome.
That's pretty awesome. So this is only the second year we've had the demonstration actual for the single ship of the F-35s. And I think it just kind of makes sense to have a combat demonstration at a combat fighter wing,
sure.
Right?
I agree completely.
Fantastic. So what we're seeing right now, like we said, ladies and gentlemen, is the A-man and the B-man of the maintenance personnel are getting ready to launch out. They're going to taxi out, and as we get to the end of the runway, we're actually going to have a special guest speaker kind of talk to us a little bit more about the combat side of the F-35. Truly a treat, considering the fact that the 388 Fighter Wing is the first, and I think still currently only, combat F-35 wing, isn't it?
Correct.
That's fantastic. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, Captain Kip Sumner here with Captain Shady Williams and Sergeant Erickson here at Hill Air Force Base, here to talk about the F-35 Lightning II demonstration. Sergeant Glasgow standing in front of that jet, giving those hand signals to Senior Airman McKenzie to kind of get that jet prepped. As we mentioned, we're going to see him walk underneath that jet right now, kind of avoiding those Gauss forces from the engine, but also making sure that jet is safe and ready to launch. A question we did get that you might be able to help answer, Shady, is some people were curious what that number on the tail of the jet actually signifies. Is there any special significance to that? Or?
Absolutely. So if you look at the screen now, you see AF-17. So that jet came off the line at Lockheed Martin in 2017. So that's an easy way. That's usually the smallest number. And then 5264 that you read there is really, you can just think of it as like a serial number. It's just the jet's number, 5264, pretty much.
Gotcha. Fantastic. And so it looks like they're getting ready to launch out now, standing together, kind of ready for the pilot. Can you tell me a little bit, what is Bayo doing inside the cockpit as she's getting ready to launch here?
Sure. So she is either inputting any sort of last-minute data, i.e. Steer points, crowd locations, things that she may or may not have been able to mission plan prior, and plugging that into the jet systems. Additionally, she's running what's called a VS bit, a vehicle systems built-in test, which is very simple, just a push of a button. And if you were able to see that on camera, all the jet's flight control surfaces are going to start to move and go back and forth. The throttle's going to go up and back, obviously not producing thrust greater than idle, but it's really just, as it says, a built-in test, and it's just the jet's way of simply saying, yeah, I'm okay to fly. If it doesn't pass, we as the pilot will not take that jet airborne. Oddly enough, it's as a lot of the jet systems are electrical, just like a computer. Simply turning the jet off and back on sometimes will fix that issue, which is a pretty funny thing, but works a lot of the time, which is
fantastic. I think the term is actually called cold ironing,
correct.
Something from the maintenance perspective. And obviously, Bayo is kind of wearing a lot of similar gear we talked about to the combat pilots, where you've flown the F-35 before. Can you tell me a lot of questions come from the helmet. Can you tell me what it's like to actually wear that helmet? One of the most advanced fighter helmets, from what I understand.
Sure. So it's pretty great, actually. And it looks, as bulky as it looks, it's pretty lightweight, which is a great thing to have, especially in a single-seat fighter jet, as you're looking around in a dogfight or anything like that. So inside, you have two different visors, as you can probably tell. The first one is a clear visor, and really that's just what being projected on. You have two oculars kind of above her forehead, which are crisscross, projecting all the flight data, similar to a heads-up display on a traditional fighter that you see on the front, or in the F-22, which is what she previously flown. But then the dark visor that you can see that's down as well, that's just no different than wearing a pair of sunglasses, because it gets bright up there, as you can imagine. But other than that, she's plugged in. She can hear all the audio through the headsets. You can tighten it down anytime you're going to do high G maneuvering, which is what she's going to do. She was going to tighten down her helmet to her liking, so that's not sliding around on top of her head there.
Gotcha. So you say sunglasses. A lot of people say Iron Man helmet. It's pretty futuristic looking, pretty awesome. But it looks like she's kind of doing her final signals to the maintainers. We're probably going to see some hand signals from them soon. Sergeant Erickson, can you tell me what does that mean for them? What is Sergeant Glasgow going to be signaling? Can you kind of tell us what that procedure's like?
Yeah, so right now both the A-man and B-man are sending to the left side of the jet, and they're waiting for Bayo's last hand signal. She's just going to throw it up, signaling that she's ready to go. She set up everything. So from that point, what they'll do is Sergeant Glasgow will run up the jet. He'll for a marshal, which you see right now. He'll marshal 3 times, send her off, and then they both salute. So then Bayo will then taxi out and get ready for the show.
Fantastic. Kind of that sign of respect, from what I understand, between those who maintain that jet like you guys do and then the pilot that's flying it, right?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, there goes Bayo right now, kind of signaling to the crowd, all you guys out there. She knows you guys are watching, so we appreciate y'all tuning in. She's taxiing down to the runway. In just a second, we're actually going to have another combat F-35 pilot. Not only that, but the operations group commander for the 388th Fighter Wing is going to kind of talk us through some of the combat aspects. So as we watch her taxi out, we'll come back to you in just a second, folks. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Now I'm here with Colonel Wood. Sir, thanks for coming and being out here today with us.
Yeah, thanks, Kip, and thanks to everybody online watching. We're really proud to be a part of this today.
Fantastic. So obviously we had Shady out here earlier, sir. We have you, and I understand you're the operations group commander for the Fighter Wing. Can you tell me what exactly does that mean to our audience out there?
Sure. So with our team, my boss, Colonel Stephen Beamer, he's the commander of the 388 Fighter Wing, and together he has 3 organizations that support our mission, which is really kept to deploy, employ, and sustain the F-35 in support of our nation's interest. And our wing, roughly about 2,000 airmen. We have 3 organizations: operations, maintenance, and our test and training range here at Utah. And together as a team, we all work to get the JOB done. I'm blessed to be in charge of the pilots and airmen that support directly the operations. So the flying, the intelligence, the taking care of the flight equipment, the running of our currencies, basically all the support side for the operational aspect. That's what we get to do.
Of course, that sounds pretty intense. And from what I understand, like we said earlier, the 388th is, as I understand, still the first and currently only full-up combat F-35 wing. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, for the Air Force, we are the only combat F-35 wing. We're now in the midst of our 3rd operational deployment in support of our nation's interests. And yeah, this is kind of the whole show for the United States Air Force in terms of what we do with the F-35 for combat power.
So obviously it makes sense that we would have our F-35 demo team as a combat asset here to kind of represent that. Can you tell me a little bit about, were you behind any of the decision to bring the demonstration team here to Hill and what that was like?
So all the, in the Air Force, our combat big organization is called Air Combat Command. And most of our fighter platforms fall under Air Combat Command. And Air Combat Command has stewardship over all the demonstration teams in the Air Force. And it was always Air Combat Command's intent to bring the F-35 to Hill Air Force Base. It's just when we stood up, we were not at a place where we were ready to do that. Our mission was to begin to learn how to fly and maintain the F-35. And so once we hit several milestones, one of the largest one was our 2nd out of 3 fighter squadrons and maintenance team reaching what we call initial operations capability. We were privileged to transition the demonstration team from Luke Air Force Base, which is a training base, up here. And then really we want combat airmen, pilots and maintainers that work and do this operation day in and day out to have the privilege and stewardship of being able to own the F-35 demo team.
Of course, it makes perfect sense to me. Hopefully it makes sense to our audience. And from what we've seen maybe a little bit in her bio, Captain Bea Wolf was actually an instructor pilot here at the fighter wing before she was selected. Can you tell me a little bit about what that selection process may have been like for her? We do get a lot of questions about what it takes to be a demo pilot.
Yeah, so Captain Wolf, she is unequally qualified for this position. She started out her career in the F-22 and was an instructor in the F-22. Highly experienced in that platform, and we selected her to fly the F-35 at Hill Air Force Base. And in her 3 or so years here at Hill Air Force Base, she was quickly recognized as one of the top performers in her year group, both for her maturity, kind of on and off the field, for her officership, for her flying ability, her leadership. And so we had essentially an interview phase and a tryout phase with a panel of individuals, and Captain Wolf routinely rose to the top. And we don't, she's not just the demo pilot. She is the commander of the demonstration team. She's Sergeant Murphy and the whole crew. It's more than one person's what she'll tell you, but that's how she really got her position, both with her flying ability, leadership ability, and her maturity.
Man, that's fascinating. Coming from the operations group commander, you guys hear it, to be on the demonstration team is really to kind of be a little bit of a paragon of what the Air Force core values represent. And I just want to bring it back to the operational side. Obviously, as a demo team, we haven't been able to travel that much because of the current travel restrictions, unique situation. But it sounds like that JOB, as you mentioned, hasn't stopped for the combat wing. And from what you mentioned, we actually just welcomed one of our 34th Fighter Squadrons back home, didn't we? Could you tell me a little bit about that, sir, and how that felt to you?
Yeah, so, in the midst of the challenge that our nation and world is certainly facing with COVID, we have a responsibility and an obligation to our nation to still be ready in support of our nation's interests. And so for the last 10, 11 weeks, the job hasn't stopped, and huge kudos to our entire 388 Fighter Wing team and our partners in the 419th for maintaining readiness in the midst of this while still trying to adhere to measures to protect our airmen. And in the midst of everything going on health-wise, we've been able to fly almost more sorties than we have in a single month of April as a combined team, while welcoming a squadron back from combat and sending another squadron to combat, all the while prioritizing both readiness and the health of our folks. It's been a busy road, and the credit goes to folks like Bayo, Sergeant Murphy, and the team, and all the airmen out here in the 388th and 419th and our mission partners.
Yeah, fantastic, sir. I think that's very well said. And again, kudos to you and your team for all the work that you guys are doing on the combat side of things. We're going to wrap it up. I think we got some questions from the audience, and you've been flying for quite a while. Is that correct, sir?
For Air Force speak, I'm old. My chief would say I'm not, but I'm still old.
Well, you definitely don't look it, but we do get questions about legacy fighters, and what is your experience? You've flown things other than the F-35, correct?
I sure have. So I've been blessed to be a part of the F-35 program since 2012. I got in early on the program, and I flew the F-16 before that, and we would consider nowadays the F-16 to be a legacy fighter.
Fantastic. So final question I think we have to ask all our legacy pilots out there. In your perspective, how was it like transitioning from the 16 to the 35?
Well, it was probably the simplest plane I had ever thought possible to fly.
Wow.
But the hardest plane to manage all the information you have.
Fantastic.
And it's a blast to fly. And Legacy, you spend a lot of time in an F-16 or F-15 just trying to figure out what's going on. In the F-35, you spend a lot of time deciding what to do with the information.
Mm-hmm.
No different. You probably don't know, Kip, but the old Commodore 464, the IBM 386.
Sir. Yeah.
As opposed to now, an iPad 10 or iPhone 10 or whatever. That's the big generational leap with the F-35.
Obviously, so still a different kind of challenge, obviously, but still something that the Air Force has to train those pilots very sharply to be able to maintain those skills. And hopefully something we'll see Bayo demonstrate today. How do you think today's show is going to go, sir?
I think the team is well prepared. I think you're going to be impressed by not only what the aircraft can do, but the maneuvers that Bayo herself can fly. It's a really good-looking airplane. It's a neat show.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us, sir. Once again, that was Colonel Joshua Wood from the 388th Operations Group and the 388th Fighter Wing, here to represent the Combat Edge. Thanks again for having us, sir.
Thanks, Kip. Take care.
Yeah, of course. In just a second, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Bayo is at the end of the runway, getting ready to taxi and take off to start the show. And when that happens, we're going to hand it over to that safety safety observer and the narrator that's going to kind of walk us through that. In just a second, we're going to bring Shady back on and maybe Sergeant Erickson and just talk a little bit about some stuff that you might not even see at a show center. So obviously, Sergeant Erickson, you've been to a few air shows when you were setting up the team yourself. Can you tell me kind of what did an audience see from a normal show center air show for the F-35?
Yeah, so like you said, Kip, I actually had the privilege to go travel to a few different air shows with the previous team located at Luke Air Force Base. As far as a visual representation from show center, the audience will actually see the aircraft right then and there. They'll see the ground routine and then her taxi off and exactly what you're going to get a chance to see here in a few moments.
Fantastic. So something that a lot of people don't maybe understand is Hill. We travel all around the world, obviously, on a normal schedule to visit other air shows. But when we're practicing at Hill, and we have Shady back here now too, Hill is a densely populated community. So we're practicing a demonstration over Hill Air Force Base in the local community. Can you tell us a little bit about what does Bayo have to do when she's at that end of the runway? Is she talking to anybody to kind of get that clearance to fly, or how are we kind of being those good neighbors for those demonstration practices?
Absolutely. So we are very close, if not kind of underlying Class Bravo airspace shared with Salt Lake International Airport, which, as you can imagine, it's a hub for Delta, so we have Delta Airlines coming in here all the time. So we need to deconflict with those guys first and foremost. So Bayo will call those guys up and put in a NOTAM, a notice to airmen, to kind of get us a lateral as well as a vertical deconfliction bubble so that she could perform her maneuvers without having any concern for outside air traffic penetrating that bubble, if you will. Additionally, as I read from our lineup card here, she's also doing, probably right now as you're looking on the screen, what's called a verify. She's doing that with Rocky, the current safety observer who is up on comms with her over on the flight line. What she's doing is essentially just, again, going over what kind of show she's doing based on the weather, whether that's a high show or a low show. What runway, obviously, if she's taking off currently on runway 14, which is a south flow runway. It's all based off the winds, so she's going to either continue that flow. She's also letting Rocky know what the local altimeter is, as well as she's going to zero that out. Based off all of her maneuvers, she's going to work off a zeroed out altimeter Hill Air Force Base sits about 4,800 feet MSL above sea level, if you will. So she's going to zero that out. She's going to let Rocky know what the difference is. And she's also getting her settings in so that she can fly any of those maneuvers.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of information. We actually have a radio here. Is that possible that we can hear that, verify that right now between Rocky and Bayo?
Yeah, let me see. Let's see if I can, let's turn this up here. I can hear her in my earphone, but I can't hear it, so I think the radio might be acting up a little bit. Sergeant Erickson, if you know any different, man, feel free to have it.
So hopefully if you guys can hear this in the live stream, we are potentially hearing a verified check between the safety observer and the pilot. So this is the safety observer right now out there talking to Bayo at the runway, correct?
That's correct, yep.
So this is something that we probably wouldn't even show our audience at a show center, right, Sergeant Erickson?
What you guys were able to see right then and there was the UHF radio put up to the mic, and you get real-time verification from Bayo to the safety observer.
And during this time, I imagine the safety observer and the narrator kind of have to work hand in hand to make sure they're getting that timing almost down to the second, right?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, and from what I understand, you've got quite the baritone yourself, Sergeant Erickson. You do narrate half of our shows, don't you?
Yeah, both Sergeant Murphy and myself, we take turns narrating. So far, it's just been the practices, but it'll be at the show sites as well.
Fantastic. So, like we're saying, we're hearing this verify with Bayo in the jet. We are moments away from launching for the demonstration. Again, if you are joining us just now, maybe you're tuning in just in time for the takeoff, we are here at Hill Air Force Base with the live virtual F-35 performance brought to you by the 2nd Audiovisual Squadron. 2ABS, they get it done second to none. And we are going to be showcasing the raw power of the Air Force's top premier 5th-gen stealth fighter. That's going to be a slightly awesome thing to see, and we are really excited to see that. We've got multiple cameras set up that are ready to go, kind of walk through that. I gotta say, guys, Shady, do you have a favorite maneuver that you like to see during the routine?
Yeah, as I look, personally, I like the pedal turn a lot, especially if the weather allows and she can get up there. It really actually shows the way in which she can really maneuver and have nose authority on the jet. We use that a lot in dogfight maneuvering, 1v1.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And on behalf of United States Air Force,
personal favorite.
Sounds like we are hearing the narration. We're going to throw it over to them right now and get started.
we welcome you to the F-35 Demonstration Team live performance. I'm the F-35 Demonstration Team Superintendent, Master Sergeant Lance Murphy from Arlington, Texas. I'm joined today by our Team Chief, Technical Sergeant Tim Erickson from Minneapolis, Minnesota, as well as our Team Safety Observer and combat-ready F-35 pilot, Major Madison Rocky Burgess. Major Burgess is a combat veteran fighter pilot with more than 500 hours in a fighter aircraft and hails from Gunnison, Colorado. As a member of the 388th Fighter Wing, commanded by Colonel Stephen Beamer, located at Hill Air Force Base in scenic northern Utah, it is my distinct pleasure to describe for you today a capability demonstration by the world's most technologically advanced, fifth-generation fighter, the F-35A Lightning II. The team commander and pilot for today's flight is Captain Kristen Bayo Wolf. Growing up in a military family, Captain Wolf hails from all across America. She is a veteran combat fighter pilot with more than 900 hours in a fighter jet aircraft. The F-35 you are about to see is a supersonic, 9G capable, multi-role aircraft that combines cutting-edge stealth with the most advanced avionics system of any fighter aircraft in history. These capabilities allow F-35 pilots to penetrate the most hostile areas of the world with a superior tactical advantage. The F-35 gives the United States Air Force the power to dominate the skies, anytime, anywhere. Designed to provide the pilot with unsurpassed situational awareness, positive target identification, and precision strike capabilities, the F-35 is the future of Air Force aviation. While you won't see everything that makes the F-35A Lightning II the most technologically advanced stealth fighter aircraft in the world, you will witness its raw power. As today's flight begins from your left, Captain Wolf will execute a maximum power takeoff using all 43,000 pounds of thrust being produced by the Pratt & Whitney F-135 engine, the most powerful fighter engine ever built, virtually lifting the Lightning II off the runway in an amazing 1,500 feet. Then watches the F-35 power straight into the vertical and executes a half Cuban 8 at a stunning 50 degrees angle of attack. A first-of-its-kind maneuver unique to the F-35 demo team. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to stand up and get your cameras ready. I present to you the newest and most technologically advanced fifth-generation fighter aircraft in the world. Your United States Air Force's F-35A Lightning II. Detect the jet through the use of stealth technology. In order to remain covert, you must maintain a clean profile by carrying your missiles and bombs internally. With an internal payload capacity of over 6,000 pounds, the F-35A is the most lethal multi-role fighter jet in the world. If you've ever wondered where those bombs and missiles hide, here is your answer. Speeds 1.6 times the speed of sound, which equates to nearly 1,200 miles per hour. Today we will showcase just a fraction of this engine's capability. Watch now as Captain Wolf accelerates to just below the speed of sound, covering an incredible 3 football fields per second. If that wasn't impressive enough, she will then pull back on the stick and catapult the Lightning II from 300 feet to over 3 miles. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for freedom stunt on the high-speed pass. In a dogfight, combat maneuverability is crucial. The Lightning II's advanced flight controls combined with its powerful engine gives the F-35 an impressive 1,500-foot turn radius. As Captain Wolf approaches show center, she will light the afterburner and bank sharply, pressing her into the seat with up to 9 Gs or 9 times the force of gravity. After completing the turn, the F-35 will power straight up into a vertical climb and quickly change direction, flipping end over end in a maneuver we call the Lightning Loop. And now, from your left, the Lightning II's combat radius turn. pass. Captain Wolf and the rest of the F-35 demonstration team from the 388 Fighter Wing wish to dedicate this pass to the men and women from all branches of the armed forces and their families who are so bravely fighting today's joint fight. We would also like to remember our wounded warriors and veterans in attendance and those who have given their lives defending this great nation. This will be your best photo opportunity, so get your cameras ready to capture this salute. And now, from over your left shoulder, the F-35 demonstration team proudly presents the Dedication Pass. Captain Wolf will now demonstrate the Lightning II's crisp agility and handling. Notice as she makes her approach, she is in the inverted position. As she reaches show center, she will complete a 360-degree roll and finish the pass inverted. Coming in from your right, Captain Wolf performing the inverted to inverted pass. The F-35 possesses the incredible ability to point its nose at will in a dogfight. Watch closely as the jet climbs more than a mile into the vertical and completes the lightning loop. And then while under complete control and without thrust vectoring, Captain Wolf will execute a full 360-degree flat turn. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lightning II pedal turn. But few can execute one quite like the F-35. The square loop begins as Captain Wolf passes show center and executes a 7G pull to the vertical and climbs to 3,000 feet. She will then execute a 90-degree turn and sustain inverted flight back across show center, while she will then point the aircraft straight at the ground. Finally, Captain Wolf will pull back on the stick to return the aircraft to level flight to complete the square. Coming in from your right, the F-35, performing the unique square loop. The ability to maintain slow speed flight is crucial in combat. The potent combination of sophisticated flight controls, coupled with the most powerful fighter engine ever built, make it possible to reduce the F-35 speed to less than 100 knots. Coming in from your left, Captain Wolf will demonstrate the F-35's slow speed capability. And then just as she approaches show center, you will once again feel the raw power of the engine as she lights the afterburner and accelerates the aircraft into a near vertical climb. Captain Wolf reaches the peak of her climb, she will go inverted and reposition the aircraft by performing a split S. As she returns to show center, she will then accelerate rapidly and snap the F-35 through a series of aileron rolls to demonstrate the Lightning II's impressive roll maneuverability. Dropping in from your right, Captain Wolf executing opposing rolls. Advanced fighter aircraft in the world, the F-35's flight controls give our pilots a distinct advantage to outmaneuver their opponents. As Captain Wolf approaches show center, she will complete more than 135 degrees of heading change in 3 seconds, slide the tail of the F-35 through the turn, and then powerfully climb out of the maneuver. In honor of the first F-35 demonstration team commander, Major Andrew Dojo Olson, and designer of this move, prepare yourselves for what we call the Dojo Drift. Of only a fraction of the F-35's full combat capability. As Captain Wolf prepares to land, we would like to give a shout out to our expert maintenance team that made today's demonstration possible. Our F-35 dedicated crew chiefs are Staff Sergeant Roberto Tejada Najera from Los Angeles, California, Staff Sergeant Stephen DePani from Northport, Florida, Senior Airman Matthew Spear from Gulfport, Mississippi, and Senior Airman Malik McKenzie from Miami, Florida. Our avionics specialists are Staff Sergeant Hunter Glasgow from Gatesville, Texas, Senior Airman Matthew Cyrus from Pomona, California, and Senior Airman Paxton McCamish from Boise, Idaho. Our weapons specialist is Senior Airman DeJoy Martin from Tacoma, Washington. Our aircrew flight equipment specialist is Senior Airman Ezekiel Pace from Compton, California. And our team's public affairs advisor is Captain Kip Sumner from Charleston, South Carolina. If you've enjoyed today's performance, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at F35 Demo Team, and tag us in all your social media posts at hashtag F35 Demo Team.
Man, she's landing on the runway right now, and I gotta say that was quite a show. How do you think today went, Shady?
Oh, absolutely phenomenal, as always.
Had some fantastic weather out there. You think the jet held up pretty well? What did you think of the show, Sergeant Erickson?
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Bayo flew a phenomenal demonstration profile today, and hopefully all you viewers out there thought the same thing.
For sure. Just want to say thanks to the support for everybody. We see the comments that are coming through right now, just blowing our mind. We really appreciate it, you guys. I know Bayo does soon here too. In just a second, we're actually going to recover the jet. And what is that process going to look like, Sergeant Erickson?
Yeah, so as you saw before, we have a demonstration launch routine. Now you'll be able to see the demonstration recovery routine. We've all perfected this. We both have the A-man and B-man out there getting ready to marshal her in and stop her at a precise stopping point.
Fantastic. And then we're actually going to be able to have, ladies and gentlemen, don't leave just yet, because we're going to get a plain sight interview with Captain Bayo Wolf as soon as she steps from the jet. So we're talking a fighter pilot that just flew all those intense G's stepping from the jet. Hey, Shady, when you fly a sortie yourself, are you used to those G-forces that you experience, or do you have a recovery process that you have to do after a flight, or?
You do get used to it. You build up a tolerance over time. Obviously, as a young guy out of pilot training, it's a little much to handle. But on a sortie like this that Bayo just flew, to immediately get out of the jet, it's like you're a professional athlete, really, is the best way to think of it. So imagine just finishing, running like a touchdown pass or anything like that. You're sweating, you're breathing heavy, and then to be done with that, your adrenaline's through the roof for one, which is a huge thing. So it's a lot to immediately land after something like that, and then go into a calm talking session with someone.
Man, just another skill that I think we're going to see from Bayo today. And you mentioned that those G-forces, the light loss, all that sort of stuff. But from what I understand, you guys are trained pretty heavily to withstand those G-forces, and they use something called centrifuge. Can you tell me a little bit about what that process was like?
That is a dreaded machine that I think I can speak for all fighter pilots that have gone through that. That is, for those of you who want, you can feel free to Google or YouTube it. There's tons of videos out there for a centrifuge. It's essentially just a little canopy, cockpit-size module, if you will, on an arm, and they just spin you around in circles and teach you how to flex your thighs, your butt, your abs, and to breathe as well. To withstand those G's, but I can honestly look you in the eye and say that is not a fun experience to get in that little machine.
And so it's probably a lot more fun to fly the jet itself than actually go through this centrifuge process.
That is safe to say.
Fantastic. So it looks like they're kind of making those signals right now, and what we're seeing is Bayo's getting ready to deplane, but Sergeant Glasgow kind of has his hands up in this like X formation. Sergeant Ayers, can you tell me what is that signifying to her?
Yeah, that is one of our marshalling visual representations to the pilot to make sure that hold her at a standstill. That indicates to her that right now the jet is in chocks, and the B-man is walking around doing a tire brake inspection. And as you can see right now, Mackenzie just moved the front chock to the side, allowing her to now do a rollover. That way the B-man can get a full 360-degree visual inspection of the tires, and he's checking to see if there's any worn tires or checking the tread on it overall.
And we're not just talking just the tires. We're talking foreign object debris, trying to make sure that there's nothing that's going to interfere with that jet, correct?
Yep, that is absolutely correct.
Okay, so and chocks are just those small things that kind of keep the jet. What is the purpose of those, just for our audience that may be wondering?
Yeah, so you saw those chocks there that he put in place. Those are actually unique to the F-35 demonstration team. Typically, our chocks do not look exactly the same, but they provide the same exact result. All it does is it allows the jet to maintain a stationary position and not move forward or aft.
Fantastic. I know Sergeant, so we train our maintainers well, because we just had a guy say in the comments that guy has the coolest demeanor and marches like a stud. I would say that Senior Mackenzie would probably appreciate that comment, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I'll absolutely make sure he gets that comment passed on to him.
So, and now it looks like, Bayo's kind of getting ready to deplane. Obviously, she just went through all those maneuvers. Can you tell me from your perspective, what is she thinking about? Maybe what is she going through as she gets ready to finish this flight?
As she's getting ready, she's given her system essentially a once-over, making sure she's passing words to maintenance for any, we call them codes. Code 1 is full up, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the jet. Code 2, maybe something's wrong, but that jet is okay to fly, maybe say later in the afternoon. And then a code 3 is that jet, something is broken on that jet.
Gotcha.
And she does not recommend another pilot flying until that gets fixed. So she's given a once-over of the system, making sure everything's good to go. she's essentially powering everything down, and then working with the maintainers, because there's a couple things on the outside that those guys do as well. And then it's literally as simple as turning the engine switch from run to off to power down the jet.
And I think something that people might find interesting too, and I didn't even know this, when we see that jet taxiing back, Bayo's taking her gloves off, maybe she's adjusting her helmet, kind of doing that, but the jet is still moving. How is she steering the jet to kind of where she needs to get it for the maintainers?
Yeah, so that's a question we actually get a lot, it's like magic, It's with her feet, actually. The rudder pedals on the ground control the nose wheel steering, so she is controlling that with her feet, and then if she pushes with her toes, that's where the brakes are as well. So that's how she stops, in addition to steering, is all with her feet.
And so flying the jet, I mean, it's obviously much more complicated than flying a car, but you guys are using the whole hands on throttle and stick, you're using your feet. It's a whole body operation for the pilot.
Absolutely. There's so many buttons on the throttle and stick alone, and then you have, like you said, the rudder and the stick and the throttle and everything. So there's a lot. It's a lot more than just left hand, right hand, forward and back. It's all the fingers and everything going on there.
Fantastic. And it looks like they're getting ready to kind of pull out that ladder and bring it down. Like we said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get an interview with Bayo in just a second as she kind of gets ready to deplane. Sergeant Harrison, after this demonstration's all said and done, what is your team going to be responsible for when it comes to bringing the jet home?
Yeah, so first and foremost, as soon as she lands and shuts down, we'll actually call out for fuel, because during that profile, she burned off quite a lot of gas, about 10,000 pounds or so. So we'll have a refuel truck come out, refuel it right then on the spot, and then perform our post-flight inspection, and that encompasses everything and more as our before-flight inspection.
Man, fantastic. As we said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a female combat F-35 pilot. We did get a lot of questions about that. Captain Kristen Bayo Wolf taking over for Andrew Dojo Olson from last year's F-35 demonstration. And once again, I was joined here by Captain Shady Williams and Tech Sergeant Tim Erickson. Gentlemen, I think this is a great show. Hopefully we'll get a chance to fly in the future, kind of do that routine we saw. I gotta say, we just got a question about Sergeant Erickson. Do all the maintainers kind of have a little high five routine that they like to do after each show?
It's just one of the things that makes it that much better for us, and we do have each our own individual handshake with one another. So.
Fantastic. So just add a little bit of personality to that team.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we're pulling all of our members from the 388th Fighter Wing, correct?
That is correct, yep.
Okay, so these are, like we said, ladies and gentlemen, combat-ready airmen. And again, for people, just to plug it, if you're interested, these are all jobs that you can actually do in the Air Force. All these, ladies and gentlemen, were handpicked and hand-selected as that symbol of professionalism. But in just a short second, like we said, we're going to have Staff Sergeant Anastasia Tompkins, one of the public affairs wingmen that I've had on the team. Maybe you've seen her content on social media, seen the videos that she produces. She's going to kind of get that plainside interview and talk with Bayo. And as he said, Sadie, that's got to be quite a feat for her to be able to just kind of step right from that jet of those G-forces.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I got to say, is there anything that a pilot maybe could do to kind of mitigate that G-force effect? Is it just a matter of staying in shape or staying fit, or what would you say for people that maybe are wanting to be a pilot in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, it is staying in shape, like you said. Just being you don't have to be in this incredible bodybuilder shape. I don't consider myself by any means any sort of bodybuilder, but definitely something, light workouts here and there, but definitely eat right is a big thing too. A lot of what contributes to being able to pull Gs over a long period of time is also being well hydrated. So for Bayo, I'm sure she was just crushing water bottles left and right here prior to the show, really just staying hydrated. But yeah, like you said, just as long as you're just mildly active, just to keep the body in a decent shape.
Fantastic. All right, so like we said, ladies and gentlemen, just a way to kind of end that show, kind of get things wrapped up, we're going to throw it over to our plainside reporter, Staff Sergeant Anastasia Tompkins. Tompkins, can you kind of give us what's going through Bayo's mind right now?
Hey there, everyone. I'm here with Captain Wolf after an amazing performance this afternoon. How'd it go?
It was great. It's finally getting warm here at Hill, so we're in the 90s, and the gusty winds made it a little bit challenging today for some of the maneuvers, but it was great to get up there. It was awesome to have this cloud backdrop for all the maneuvers and for the people watching, so it felt really good, and we're just happy to be able to show off the jet to everybody. Absolutely.
Your performances mean so much to so many people, but what does it mean to you personally to be able to do events like this?
Yeah, I always feel lucky to be able to, maneuver this jet for everybody else to see, to show off the F-35. So I consider myself humbled for that, to be able to just to have this job. But honestly, we're just trying to stay ready to travel, ready to show off this jet on the road, and we feel really lucky to be able to have live streamed a performance for everyone, just to at home watch and kind of keep the morale up.
It was certainly quite the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, ma'am, and again for the show. And I'm sending it back to you, Captain Sumner.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sergeant Tompkins. Once again, people, we hope that you really enjoyed today's live show. I want to give a huge shout out to the 2nd Audiovisual Squadron for helping put this on, as well as our safety observer, Major Rocky Burgess, and our safety observer, Captain Shady Williams. Shady, thanks for taking your time out to come and talk to us today.
Absolutely, brother. Enjoyed it for sure.
Fantastic. And you as well, Sergeant Erickson, thank you for also taking the time out of this. I'm sure you guys have a lot of maintenance to do with the jet, so we're going to let you get back to it as well. Thanks for coming out.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yep. So, again, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you missed this live show performance, this is something that will be on our Facebook and YouTube channels. You can make sure that you watch this demonstration in its entirety after the fact that it airs. And don't forget that we are an active duty Air Force demonstration team. So we are practicing around the clock, and we're here to answer your questions. So if you guys want to see more F-35 awesomeness, or what it's like to be on a demonstration team, or even just have questions about what it's like to be in the Air Force, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at F-35 Demonstration Team, or F-35 Demo Team. And if you're curious about the video production aspect and what it was like to kind of put on a live show like this, it'd probably be best to follow the 2nd Audiovisual Squadron at 2AVS on both Facebook and their Instagram as well. Once again, I'm Captain Kip Sumner. I'm the Public Affairs Advisor for the Demo Team, and we hope that you enjoyed today's live show. And wherever you are in the world, we hope you have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night.